Okay. Fazan and Jaykumar, you can ask others also to log in. Why are they taking this much time to log in?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. I think we will start. The rest will join subsequently.
Okay.
So a warm good evening to all. So let's open the series of web series of College of Pharmacy, Saveetha University. I'm here to welcome Dr. Banu, a good friend of mine since a couple of years ago. And she is the director of Augur Associates and basically a qualified postdoctoral fellow from Madras University. And she is basically a biotechnologist and toxicologist. And she has undergone training with various sectors like NABH training. And she also had hands-on experience with India and abroad. And she is the software developer for many pharmacovigilance and signaling capacities of the drug molecules. And she is very known for her own architect design for post-marketing pharmacovigilance of products using electronic systems. And Banu is known for PMS study, I should say like that. So she is very well versed in all the technical aspects of the automation and validation, QC, everything. And she has to her credit a lot of innovation awards, like from Pfizer, she has got IIT Innovation Awards and JCP Journal Award for Product Manager. And she's a member DIA and member ACRP. And she's also a Women Fellow. She is a scholar from International Institute of Biotechnology and Plant Protection. And what not, the list keeps running longer and longer to describe Dr. Banu here. And thank you, Banu, for instant acceptance of my invitation to host the session for us. And it would be of great importance for us to have you here because it's the biggest knowledge sharing platform where my students and faculties will be benefited with this 1 hour session with you. And I request Dr. Banu to take over the session for enlightening us on what is about pharmacovigilance and what is the importance of pharmacovigilance in terms of pharmacy and pharmacy education, and how one should take up a career in pharmacovigilance after the pharmacy education. Welcome, Banu, once again. I hand over the session to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have been called for presentation with IIT Innovation Award. We have not won that. That's one correction I would like to make.
Okay.
I thank the Saveetha Medical Institution and as well as the pharmacy team for providing me this opportunity. Thank you, Deepa. I believe interacting with pharmacists and future pharmacists is very, very essential for me and my kind of work. If you can help me with the PPT, that will be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we a bit of 1 minute of introduction about my company, and then I would go into what we do and why are we here today to discuss about pharmacovigilance. I represent August Safety Services Private Limited, which is a 6-year-old firm. We started very much at the time where clinical research industry had a lot of turmoil, and we ended up moving into pharmacovigilance sector because we are very strong from our preclinical, clinical, and hospital research. Okay, so our company is located in Bangalore. We have 5 applications developed within our organization, which is also, you can say, the largest database of adverse events, and many things are there in for our credits. Okay. Our systems are the first ERP systems in pharmacovigilance where you can eliminate the use of papers at any level. You can be completely electronic in data capturing. So, Deepa, can I have move to the next slide? Yeah. So today and along with me, we are 2 director company, and our firm's greatest vision and belief statement, we always say that we need to be the most accurate and fastest drug safety provider in the world. So this has been our goal from the time of our inception, and we work hard to achieve this. And several of our products have evolved and come into practice and use because of our strong belief in that pharmacovigilance system should be fastest and most accurate reporting system. It need not to be a paper, it need not a digital, but it has to be fast and accurate. These 2 things are very critical in my sector of work. Can I have the next slide, please? The company works into different pharmacovigilance services. Ma'am, yeah. We work for several regulatory summations like Europe and Middle East and in India. We also work with risk-based monitoring, auditing, statistical solutions, and we have in-house P4 Vigil. We have XML ICSR submission. We have electronic CRF. We have online training modules for um, pharmacovigilance and related procedures in all over the world. And we also have a remote auditing software for our credits. So this is in nutshell about my firm. Okay. So now I will take you through the process of what's my understanding of pharmacovigilance. And anytime if you have doubt, please keep the question to the end so we can discuss at the end. All right. Yeah, ma'am, can I have the next slide, please? See, worldwide pharmacists in India, like any other pharmacist, collect a lot of information and submit to a depository of information, which is managed by WHO. So all my definitions in this presentations are with reference to WHO. So I need not have to type every time it's a definitions taken from WHO, all right? And the data which is submitted to the central archive and its interaction to the local population, there is no much interaction happening. Okay, I would like to take you through a, ma'am, I'm not able to see the, yeah. Can you go to the next slide, ma'am? So this is the volume of adverse event database managed by WHO. It is also monitored by Upasala Monitoring Committee, which is based in Switzerland. Whenever we discuss about pharmacovigilance or any activity, these two references default come. And if you are doing some evaluation of a product, it would be better to refer these standards. That's the reason why I have incorporated this slide. Can I have the next slide, please? Here, see, you on the right of your screen, I don't want to take a name of the drug, but it is a CNS disorder drug, and adverse event database has been submitted. Okay, 70% of the cases which is submitted, it says the outcome of the reaction is not known. Okay, that means the follow-up system which we have in our place is not actually working effectively, or systems are not in places. Ma'am, can I have the previous slide, please?
1 second.
Yeah. And this is again from the newsletter, this is again the newsletter data which 6 years back, which says about only 17 adverse events have happened in Gujarat. You will see the numbers in real time scenario, adverse events and hospital administration. We did not have a correct, accurate, evaluated data in India. Whereas, ma'am, we can go to the next slide. Whereas in EU situations, the hospital administrations and admissions are very much checked very oftenly because of centralized hospital healthcare systems. And the data what we see from there is about 3 to 10% of the hospital administration contributes to the adverse reactions. Okay, and they roughly say about 79 billion is being spent on management of adverse event in the EU region. When they've consolidated the EU region, they have come up with a more ISO-based structured systems to monitor and report adverse events. So therefore, the EU has its own guidelines, system and processes, which is very advanced and evolved. From April 2013, they have a new systems established. So this systems, why we are discussing here now is, anybody who's going to take up a career in pharmacovigilance would be working for the job outsourced for the EU processes. Okay, so the evolution of EU guidelines which happened in April 2013 is what going to be the thumb rule for anybody who's going to work in the pharmacovigilance sector. It doesn't mean US FDA don't say, or any our health industry don't say. It's not like that. Each country has their own processes and procedures in place. Can I have the next slide, ma'am? If you see, why are we comparing EU with India, both have somewhat structurally different language, different food practices, different cultural practices put across. Okay, so that's why I thought, it's better to compare Indian data with an EU, though our health infrastructure is not, very comparable to EU. Okay, can I have the next slide, ma'am? Yeah, these are the few examples of the top 10 prescribed drugs. Why we have taken is because as we go in the presentation, we will also have examples of what is this reactions and how these reactions are collected and contributed. Right from our thyronorm, or hydrocodone or simvastins, they have been the biggest drug users, and few of the drugs. Ma'am, can I have the Ma'am, the screen is not so clear.
Here only.
It's clear? People can see?
Very, very much.
Okay. Okay. So these are the, again, top 10 prescribing drugs. So if you see Janvia or Nova Rapid, you are seeing about, $4 million or $4,000 million or $2,000 million are spent to bring one product into the market. Can I have the next slide, please? So when we are talking about bringing a product to market, it is equally painful to understand some products from the markets are taken back purely for the reasons of adverse drug reactions. There are a few examples I have given here, like the trovafloxacin or tolbutazone or avandia. Most of the drugs are for, can I have the next slide, please, ma'am? Some of the drugs are for specific treatment of pain. Some of the drugs are specific treatment for chronic disorders like diabetes. But what happens is they increased heart rates and death rates are more in those groups. Therefore, they contributed to withdrawal. But to bring the product to the human consumption after a phase 4 studies, this cost about 11 years. But when the products are about to remove, they averagely cost about 4 to 5 years. Okay. So the knowledge of the adverse events, which is present during the clinical early phases of the study, is very, very critical to prevent post-marketing withdrawal of this drugs. Okay. Ma'am, can I have the next slide? This is again another classic example. A drug which is supposed to be treated for sepsis is being withdrawn for lack of efficacy. So the period when the drug has been used and the volume of people who have been using this drug, which is a lack of efficacy, is the reason of withdrawal. How many deaths it would have contributed, I really don't want to comment, but the early phase of signals of these drugs are very much, predictable in nature. Can you have the next slide, please, ma'am?
I request all of you to mute your mic.
So in that, again, this is a general process of adverse events, how they are captured. We capture an information, we compare that information whether it belongs to already known adverse event data. If that is not for the known adverse event data, we go and check the literature. Is it rare symptoms? And if it is again not known and it is serious, then we take it into whether a second path of reporting newly rare observed indications. And if it's again and very important to be communicated, this gets communicated to various regulatory bodies and other things, etc. Ma'am, can I have the next slide? In definition, what we mean by pharmacovigilance is, see, I explained you about how many regulatory authorities and how these populations are different, and how the union of some countries have led to unified guidelines, and that guidelines leading to common practices of how an adverse events are reported. Traditionally, anybody who is going to talk about pharmacovigilance, they will definitely use to tell you about thalidomide disorder, which happened for morning sickness. People have taken medication. They've given birth to child with a lot of birth defects. Okay. But I think you would also learn that in your syllabus, so I don't want to go detail into it. So we will now understand, go and in depth and understand 4 serious definitions of what is related to pharmacovigilance. In pharmacovigilance, if we define the activity, we are talking about detection, assessment, understanding, prevention of adverse events or adverse effect which is related to treatment of a drug. So this is what we mean by pharmacovigilance. We are not talking about vigilance activity in early discovery phases. So we are very much talking about what happens when the drug is given a proper permission. Ma'am, can I have the next slide?
In case if it is getting disconnected, please re-log in. Okay.
Yeah. So whenever you treat a person with a drug, what are the things what you know? Can you give some example? Let me throw an example since we are on Zoom. When we treat people with simvastatin, we know very well we have tried several medications for lowering of HDL and LDL, and platelet risk. So therefore, we are working at giving them a drug, which is a last resort is to reduce cholesterol and to prevent large macrovascular blood vessels damages. So in that case, we know that we are giving a drug which will reduce the cholesterol. We know that the reduction of cholesterol also can cause some other metabolic errors, but we don't know that they can cause muscle weakness. Okay, so what is this kind of ongoing monitoring in current job opportunity scenario? They are called as risk management plan writing, but in fact we would refer in our industry as risk minimization measures. So any drug which is launched in the market, we have to have a risk minimization measures. We need to know what is the acceptable level of risk. We need to know what is the serious risk if it happens, what is the SOC, which is called standard of care in managing. And we also need to know what is the unacceptable risk levels and how to report them. Okay, so this whole concepts of benefit and risk ratio is what being constantly monitored throughout the product cycle, through this vigilance activity and also through the RMPs. But how we monitor this is basically from single individual. Can you move to the next slide?
1 second, ma'am. Who is this giving a side crosstalk? Can I have your cameras in mute, please? I mean, speaker in mute.
You can see, ma'am, actually, if you drop down,
Yeah,
you can see who's,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah. So now we have definitions here, like what is an adverse drug reaction and what is an adverse event. Adverse event happens very much in a scenario where the drug is under the investigation stage, and it is often named as investigational medicinal product or new chemical entity or a pharmaceutical product. Whereas when we said ADRs, we are really saying about after an injury caused after taking a medication, and it can also caused by exposure of a single dose or by a prolonged administration. When we say drug, it is very commonly people assume that it's a tablet or a syrup or a pill or an injection. It can be anything therapeutic, prophylactic. So you need to understand when we talk about drug, we are talking about all this kind of definition. And when we say drug here, we include anything which is like sometimes a diagnostic kit, sometimes a medical devices, sometimes we are talking about medical products, sometimes we are talking about stem cells. They all come under drug label. All right. Yeah. Ma'am, can I have the next slide? Yeah. So when we say about adverse events, because it is related to early stages of investigation, we are very much have a very strict rules to report any death, as we know, within 24 hours to 7 calendar days or 15 days with several region. But thumb rule is, as you know, you immediately report it and then you submit several reports. So this reporting of clinical trial related adverse events are managed by online portal in most of the countries. Even in India, we have an online portal called Sugam portal to enter the values and move forward. Ma'am, can I have the next slide, please? We can go. Yes. I've mentioned already. Yeah. See now, when we say the data which is collected to do the analysis of benefits and risk is through individual form. And this individual form is first derived after by a study called Kirshner and Lasenga, which checked about the adverse reactions of all the chemicals and they come up with the side effects and so many details. If you want references of this document, I will share it with you. And from there came the unified reporting forms. Several governments use several type of forms. India use CDISCO voluntary reporting adverse event forms, and in US you have MedWatch forms which you report. So when we take up a job as a drug safety associate, we are ideally managing individual components of the data in this forms, and we also will be doing collective analysis of individual data in a periodic manner. That is called as periodic safety reports. And by this periodic safety reports, we will see whether any early detections of new indications are appearing. So that we call as signal detection. And signal detection by definition itself, it says if there is a pattern and suggests safety information, specifically whether it can